Jesus, that was enthusiasm for you. Right, then let's get on with it. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the International Writers Fellowship, where a bunch of us authors from all the way around the world get together and discuss our chosen craft. As usual, my name is Dan. I'm the RPG therapist, and this week I'm joined by Jules and Kyoko. Hi. Apparently, two black cat people. So already I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm just going to let you two get on with it. I'm just going to sit here in the background. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good. Glad to have a day off finally.
What is Labor Day exactly?
That is an excellent question. I wish I could answer, but as Americans, all we do is just take a day off and in no way think about what the origin of the holiday is.
Isn't it like a bank holiday? What's the purpose of bank holiday?
I mean, all I know, something Labor Party, something Labor Movement. That's most I can remember from grade school. Our education is worthless.
We have a Labor Day in Australia too, so probably about the same reason. Yeah.
Whereas we have a Labour government, so I suppose we beat you guys. Every day is a Labor Day here.
We're one of those as well.
Yeah, but for how long? I mean, at least the governments in the UK last a full term, usually.
They're doing pretty well this time around.
Oh, wait. Have they lasted more than a couple of weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, blimey. Oh, Charlene's here already. Hello, Charlene. So, before we do anything else, I don't suppose anybody has any tarot cards they'd like to... No? Okay, well, I'll do one then. Just picking one at random. Let's just...
How many sets have you got now?
Shush. We don't ask questions like that. Thank you very much indeed. The answer is always... the answer is always... Maybe room for one more. Sure. What?
You have to put that comment on screen.
Why would you call me out on that? And plus, it's not 6 more on the way, thank you. One of them has arrived. It's 5 more on the way.
There you go. Got to be specific.
We're 2 minutes in and already I'm being bullied. What's this all about? Come on. Anyway, let's use Nature's Whispers, the Oracle. I love the art on these because it's just so intricate, and there's images within images, and they have butterflies on the back, which is always cool. Yep. Let me just make sure that autofocus is on so that it will come in, and let us have a look. We have got make a decision.
Nice.
I love the art on these. Like I say, it's just, it doesn't matter where you look, there's always something else that you've missed. So make a decision. 11. Your sheer determination is highlighted at this time. Your spirit will support your desires and manifestations. The ability to create or destroy has always been within your skill base. You have the wisdom and confidence needed to use these skills constructively. Now is the time to act if you know what it is you want to accomplish and why. Since the powers of transformation are at your command, change your desires into objectives, your thoughts into actions, your goals into achievements. If you have recently met with failure, know you can change that failure into success. The only limits you have are those you impose upon yourself. Anybody got any thoughts about that writing-wise?
I suppose that could be a nudge for me to decide about what my trajectory is for next year, because there's a lot of different things that I could work on now that we're officially in the fall. Because I think there's 2 points at which you can consider the first day of fall. I think it's like either today or tomorrow, and I think like a little bit further into September. But I always love this part of the year. It's the best part of the year to me.
How about you, Jules?
I have a lot of projects that I really want to get onto, but because of health reasons, I haven't been able to do much lately. But now that I'm coming out of the tail end of that, I'm like, right, it's time to actually do some stuff. Yeah. I need to get the next part of my PhD novel underway. Keeps sitting in the back of my brain, ready to go. So,
as books do.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, the decision that came to my mind, Jules, was because we've been talking about doing a draft 3 after a decade.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just coming to decisions about that. And also I've made decisions in personal life lately, which will have a massive impact. So I wonder what, yes, I need more. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Charlene's read the novel and it's like, yeah, come on, just calm down, girl. We've got to write it first.
Maybe we've got a bunch of short stories that could keep her entertained in the meantime.
Yeah, true.
Do something about that first. We can have that conversation till later.
Yeah, so I think just it's very easy for me personally. I don't know about how you two feel too, because I've always got several projects on the go at once, and it's very easy for me to kind of go, okay, I'll do a bit here, I'll do a bit there, I'll do a bit here, and just everything kind of stagnates. Whereas I think maybe I just need to find something and just pour my heart and soul into that and be a bit more disciplined. Discipline. And anybody in the chat, if you if you had any thoughts about that card, excuse me, but by all means, just let us know. Either live or if you're watching this later on.
How many viewers have we got, Dan? Because we can't.
At the moment, we only have the one. We have Charlene, but then again, sometimes it tells us we've got fewer than we actually have. I've noticed, so you never know. We might have 100.
Oh.
We're going to go with that. We at most we've got 2, but let's just say we've got 100.
So tell me a little bit more about the book that you guys wrote together.
So it came out of a writing turn-based RPG on a message board that we worked on 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
And we had so much fun.
Okay.
We ended up with 100,000 words worth of RPG, and we were like, we should probably turn that into a novel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's nothing like the RPG. The RPG.
No.
When we said we took a few of the characters and then wrote a novel about them, I think is
and
more,
the kind of the underlying premise of the world, but we developed it way more.
yeah, I would say originally, yeah, it's. But yeah, so basically we just decided to get together and write it, and that was actually our first novel writing experience. So because we actually did an episode on it last week, all about the collaboration process, and yeah.
And
so
what have we categorized it? Flintlock political fantasy, with a Renaissance flavored setting, which is good fun.
that was a royal we. Jules has classified it as that. I haven't put enough thought into it to classify it as anything.
Yeah,
But it does bring us neatly into a topic that I mentioned just before we came online. So Kyoko, for Jules' benefit and everybody else, Kyoko and I just get together every now and again and put the worlds to right, geek out about films and writing, and just have a good natter. And yesterday, Kyoko mentioned, because I asked if you'd seen the Rings of Power, because that's the thing that's on the zeitgeist at the moment, and you said no because that kind of high fantasy wasn't really your jam, because you preferred the more character focused stuff. And I thought that today, because Jules is very much character, Jules loves a world building, but if the characters aren't there, it's yeah. Whereas I am very much more the world building side of things. I mean, I love my history, but even then I really enjoy the broad strokes of history rather than reading individual diaries, for example. So yeah, what is it about these particular elements that we find most enjoyable? How do we write them? How do we use them in our own particular works? Are there authors who do any of them particularly well, particularly poorly? Open to IWF discuss.
I think for me, like, I like character because their plot can be anything, and you can place anybody in any sort of plot. But I find myself gravitating towards character-based stories specifically because I want to see somebody. I want to see them on a journey, but I want to see if they can handle the journey at all. Just because life is stressful, and depending on what they're put through, a lot of the times they can come through it like just being a really, really great character. For example, I don't remember if this is a conversation you and I had or somebody else, but I know, it was my Jamaican friend. I had been describing to her The Secret of Nim by Don Bluth. And again, exactly. Amazing film. One of my freaking
Have you read any
favorite.
of the books? Because I
read the book. I read the first one as a kid. So I actually am one of the rare people who has seen the movie and read the book. And I actually like both of them for completely similar
endings. The book is actually Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of Nim.
Yeah, instead of Brisby. Yeah. So I actually, I read it as a kid, and I had a copy at some point, but I don't know if it's still in my library. But what was funny is as I was describing the movie to her, and I wasn't spoiling anything, but I was just kind of telling her what it was about because she just grew up and didn't really grow up with that book or with that movie. And I found myself oddly getting emotional while I was describing Miss Brisby to her. Because I guess I didn't consciously realize how much I liked her as a character until I was explaining what she had to go through to someone else. And I was like, oh my God, I'm having like a little moment here because I was so proud of her by the end of that entire debacle because she had to overcome some of the scariest things that you ever would need to in a story. And she had to be strong enough to do that for her children to make sure that they were going to be okay. And that is what gets me excited. I love stories where, especially in her case, because she was kind of just a housewife. And so she really didn't know what to do other than to look to other people. And she was able to, oh my God, yes, that owl was terrifying.
I mean, just for anybody, Jules, do you know?
No, but I actually just made myself a note, things to put on the to watch.
So the story is basically that Mrs. Frisby in the book, or Brisby in the movie, her son is ill, and it's time for them to migrate to warmer climes. But because he's ill, they can't, and they live in a is it a cinder block?
It's a little cinder block,
half buried in a field. And it's the time of year when the farmer's going to come and plow his field, which means that anybody in the house, and so she has to go and figure out a way of saving everything, and that involves going speaking to terrifying owls, genetically enhanced rats, and drugging cats.
Probably what I would argue the scariest cat in animated history. Don Bluth went out of his way to make that thing terrifying. I love cats, but even I was like, that thing was terrifying. It was so scary because so much of the story is seen through the lens of her. As like I said, she kind of was just a housewife. Her husband was the one that was involved with the rats and she finds out that he was a hero. He actually was able to help save the rats when they were escaping from their oppressors. And unfortunately, he passed away when he was trying to help them do something. So she's on her own now. So she can't rely on her husband to help her with the difficult things that she has to do to try and make sure that the kids will be safe and that the other people in the because every year they all the other animals know each other and they all live in the field and they know, all right, this time of year the farmer's going to come, he's going to mess everything up, everybody has got to evacuate. So they check on each other, they take care of each other. It was another thing that I think was really good. Like all of the supporting characters were all very distinct. And they all had their own motivations and they all had their own personalities. I thought the voice acting was phenomenal. Loved everybody that was there. But that's an example of that's the kind of story that I love, where you get to see someone who isn't really predisposed to be on a journey or have to do these really difficult things on a mission or a journey, and learning how to do that and having the courage, despite, especially for her in particular. It's very evident how scared she is the entire time over the course of the story, but she still digs deep and she finds a way to still do the things that she needs to do for her family. And I just think it's a beautiful story, seeing that love and devotion, but also seeing all the people that rally around her to help her. And it just really is a great story, honestly.
Yeah, and that's the owl That,
Yes, with those big, scary, glowing eyes, man.
yeah, well, and that is that a mustache? Is
Yeah,
it?
it's kind of like a
what is it?
mustache.
It's yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty scary. He was pretty scary.
But because I read the book when I was at school, and it's one of those stories that has stuck with me throughout life. I mean, the reason Jules will get this. The reason I had to buy Everdell was because it reminded me of the Rats of Nim. Because the whole story of the rats is that they want to escape to, and they've started creating their own little paradise in the woods somewhere. And so I'm like, Everdell, please, got to play Everdell.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, for that, I want for that the way that is regarded. I want Redwall to be like that someday. There's a book series called Redwall by Brian Jakes, and I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce his last name. I've never heard. I didn't hear him say it before he passed away. But like, no, I that's another series. Like that was my bread and butter as a kid.
I loved Redwall growing
so
up.
good.
Every single one of the books. They're just so good.
I never read those, but my brother was really into them.
They're really, really good. I recommend them it's a great reading for a kid, and it's really good for an adult too, because he was one of the ones who what I consider like Bruce Timm and Batman the Animated Series and all those the people that made those, they made it for kids, but they made it understandable for adults.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Like it wasn't one of those of like it's only kind of geared towards children. It actually is like mature storytelling in a way that a child could understand it. Now it is fairly violent though. So I would say
animals, but talking animals at war with each
war.
Other. You
know, they go to actual war in here. So I would say the kid needs to be probably about 8-ish. A little older kid would be the word choice is going to be a little too difficult. But yeah, about 8 and up. Yeah.
Friends, kids who are always looking for new things to read, so I've just added that to my list too.
So
it's really, really good. But the same thing, that one I like because it's a very character-based story. Each book will kind of like, and they depending on how he decided to do it, some of them are in sequence chronologically, and then sometimes there'll be like a prequel book that came after something or what have you. But all of them are all very, very character-based stories, and they're really.
You say that though, but oddly enough, what I think of when I think of Redwall is the world, because yes, they're character-based stories, but no two stories have the same main character, and
the Abbey itself kind of is a character in a way, because it is the home where it is kind of the home base of the story. It's like the grounding place. Like, so each one is going to have something to do with Redwall Abbey, even if it isn't like directly at it. It could be that you cross over with it at some point, and that's where that happens in the story. But like you said, that's what was so cool about it is each book is slightly different. It'll be a different point in time. It'll be a different setting, but all of it will be tied back in some way to that particular Abbey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
That, because as I say, it was the world that really got me into it. Like I very much more the broad strokes of things, and so for me it's the events rather than the characters that excite me. So Matthias finding Martin's tomb under the stairs, for example, that was like, oh my god, this is so cool. Going up the weather vane and finding out the sword's not there anymore. Just to me, those are the things that stand out as exciting. Whereas from what I'm hearing you say, it's like if you don't have the connection with the character for you, it doesn't matter how exciting the moment is, you're not really that invested. Is that?
Well, the difference I have is I can enjoy a story in which it's not character-based. It just means that usually it resonates if it's a character-based story. So there's a difference between me going to watch a movie one time and enjoying it and then just kind of not remembering much about it versus me like really getting into it. Like I go home and I get on Tumblr and I'm reblogging GIFs and I'm looking up trivia and I'm doing like that kind of stuff. So that's the difference between like, let's see if I have something modern. Like what's the two most recent things I've seen? So Deadpool 3 versus what have I seen earlier this year? What's something else I saw this year? I'm trying to think. Right, I hate that. I hate it when I like blank on what the heck has come out this year.
You're getting old. Well, I mean,
I am getting old.
No, you're not. Jesus, you're the youngest person here. Whilst Kyoko looks at that, Jules, what's your take on the whole thing? Because obviously a big part of our collaborative process was you were very, very, very focused on the character side of things, and I was much more involved in the broader stroke side of things. So whilst Kyoko finds movies,
Argyle.
For me,
That'll be my example.
yes.
Sorry, Karen was.
I was just thinking about the thing that kind of made me fall in love with fantasy was Tolkien originally. One of my first experiences of reading a book and almost having like a sensory experience was, I think it was The Hobbit. Just a description in there and just feeling like I could actually almost like smell and taste what it was like to be in Rivendell. And I was kind of hooked from there. But Tolkien's pretty heavy going and not that there's not characters, but it's just, it has a different feel. And so when I finished that and I was looking for other things, I was like, surely there are other good fantasy. I came across all the regular recommendations that were around in like the late 90s. And I kind of bounced off them. I mean, I read them, but I was like, eh. And then I came across Robin Hobb and realized, oh, you can have character focus and epic world building at the same time. And I was hooked from there. Although I had the unfortunate experience of I found Robin Hobb at my local library and it wasn't the first book out of all of the stories in her world. And I only realized when I was 200 pages in that, oh, wait, there's other books. And I had some spoilers, but I mean, they're still amazing. A couple of years ago, I actually reread there's 16 books now in that world. four series, three, no, more than that. Yeah, 3, 4, and 3. Yeah, it's pretty, but the end of that is the character ending, and it's kind of amazing. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, hence I was pointing out to Dan this one here because that's very much, yeah.
That's Fitz and what's the
Night Eyes?
Night Eyes.
Yeah.
So how do we introduce our favored aspects into a story? Because don't get me wrong, we need both of these elements if we're going to make the story work. There's no such thing as a story that's only the character with zero world building. Even if the world is just a white room, it still needs a setting. And likewise, you can write an amazing world history, but if you haven't got characters, it's not a story that people are going to read. But how do we approach it so that we have our favored elements in place? What is our writing process like here?
I don't know. I guess with mine, my ideas come in like really random various places. I've had some that were dreams. I've had some that were I was just driving down the street and something occurred to me, like that sort of thing. But most of the time with mine, I kind of start from a place of like, all right, well, what is the point of this? Is this for entertainment? Is this, I've got something to say that I want to figure out how to say it, and this is the catalyst or the vehicle that allows me to say it? Or am I just here having fun? I'm just here having fun, and it doesn't need to be any of those specific things. And I think that's how I start to construct the story, because I always start from a point of like, all right, well, who am I talking about? Okay, well, most of my characters, I sound very pretentious every time I say this, but like, I don't make characters. They kind of just walk up and introduce themselves to me, and I just write down whatever they tell me. I don't like that. Now, I'll have secondary characters or tertiary characters that I create. Like I go, oh, wait, okay, we're in this part of the story. I need this guy to do this thing. So let me go ahead and construct him. So that person, yes, I go, yep, this is his hair, eyes, his personality. This is what he does. Those people I do actually actively create. Everybody else, I think, is like this sort of organic character that walks up to me and tells me, okay, this is what I want to do. And I go, okay, whatever you want. And then usually after I have who it's about, then I know what the actual plot and the world building is going to be after that point, after I know who it is and what they want. And so once I know what they want, I know what's going to stand in front of them to prevent them from getting whatever that is. And so that's usually how my villains or my antagonists take shape. And then after that point, that's when I think all the rest of the things that you fill in a story about start to happen. So your different relationships and dialogues and other little things that kind of get put together. That's sort of how it works in my process. So
Mine's really similar. Just that feeling of, oh, hello. Like, you are a fully formed person. Okay, what are we going to do? And I've had that experience multiple times. You start writing a scene with a character, and even somebody else walks on the stage, and you're like, oh, okay, there's another person. oh, that's a really cool character. Yeah.
So when you say you kind of just write down whatever the character's doing, does that mean you don't really know what's going to happen at the end of the story? So you just kind of let the characters do whatever they want and let that decide the plot? Do you have an idea for how the world and how the plot works out first, and then just kind of fit the characters in?
It depends on the story. So most of mine, I think of it as a timeline. So if we split a story into 3 acts, so your A, B, and C, 90% of the time, I know either all 3 or I know at least a minimum of 2. So I usually know the beginning and the middle and the end, or I'll just know one of the other 2. And then as far as fitting them in, so I let them do scene to scene. I definitely let the characters decide what they're going to do, but I know what the trajectory is of the whole story. So typically I think of it as like clouds. So I'll have like a cloud where I go, okay, well, here's where they are in the story. They're going to arrive at this point, but I just need them to be at that point at a certain either number of pages, number of words, or a scene or whatever. And so I just sit down and let it come out as it comes out. So whatever the character decides to do in that instance, sometimes I'll guide them. Sometimes I actually just build on whatever they've already been doing, and I continue to build on it, and then they just go through and then they're done. So sometimes I have like vague points that I know we're going to hit, and so by the end of the story I kind of have an idea where it's going to go. Every once in a while I'll start where I don't know the ending, but I usually know like the general of where they're going to end up. So like if it's I admit this, I only write 2 endings. It's either going to be a happy ending or bittersweet. I freaking hate depressing ass endings. I've always hated them. They're necessary, but I'm just not going to write them. I'm just not going to. I come here to escape, and I want to escape. So everybody's ending is either going to be bittersweet or happy. That's it. That's all you get. I'm never going to just write an outright downer ending for myself, because it's just how I am. And so that's why, like I said, usually by the time I get to the end, I know the ending is going to be one of those 2. But typically it's going to be a heroes win, even if they suffered some losses along the way. But like in general, I will know what how the story is going to end to some extent when I start, but it may not be to every fine detail.
Jules?
I'm just thinking of an example. So the novel that I'm working on at the moment, this seed for this character actually arrived 3 or 4 years ago. And I think I actually showed it to IWF group. It was literally a paragraph. I woke up one morning and suddenly I had this character's voice in my head, first person. And I wrote it and I was like, what is that? And I didn't know where else to go with it. And now it's turned into a novel. But I often find I have to do some work on getting the voice of the character in my head before the story beats start to fall into place. And then when I'm working on the story in particular, once I kind of got the big picture of the ending, I do a lot of work to try and shape that so that the sequence and the overall arc of the story makes sense. Because one of the things that I love Robin Hobb.
Sorry, I just want to say hello, Stephanie. Thanks for joining us. We're just talking about character-focused fiction as opposed to world/event-focused, and Jules is walking us through her process.
I love Robin Hobb, but occasionally I'll get to the end of one of her stories and it feels maybe a little bit rushed or not as satisfying as it could be. And it's interesting, like I actually had the experience once of meeting her at a con. She came to Australia. And I don't know how, but I actually got a chance just to have a one-on-one chat with her and asked her about her process for planning. She was just sitting at her booth and there was nobody else there. And she said she kind of has the rough shape of the story, but she lets the characters decide along the way. And when I stepped back from that, after I understood my own process better, I was like, yeah, I can, because I used to do that. Just let the characters figure out how to get there. And there was something about the ending that wasn't quite satisfying. So I add an extra step now to try and make the arc, make sure it's going to work and refine that. So it's a bit of the characters leading, but also knowing that if I don't set up a satisfying character arc, then I'm going to be disappointed when I get to the end of the story, even if the ending's awesome. So, yeah.
Whereas I personally tend to approach it almost like writing historical fiction, because I mean I've written a lot of historical fiction, but it tends to be a case of, so even with my fantasy, for example, it's like, well, these world events happened and they may have happened because of input from the characters, but the point is they happened, and so we've got to try and see what the characters were doing during those times. So for example, you know, writing something set during the Second World War, you know, that we know certain events happened in certain places at certain times, and no matter what a character of my creation does, that's what needs to happen. They need to fight. If they're going to fight in a particular battle, they need to be in that place at that time. And so, yes, they can do their own thing in between, but if I want to show them fighting that fight, they've kind of got to do what they're told. Whereas, so I'm a bit more prescriptive, a bit more directive, saying, right, no, you need to kill those people, and to kill those people, you need to be in this place. Okay, so kill these people first, then get over there, right? Whereas, and this was kind of not, we didn't clash heads even at the beginning, but this was very much kind of a difficulty where Jules and I just couldn't quite see how the other one worked. Because I was like, I'm very much, no, my characters are going to do this because I need them to do this. Whereas Jules is very much like, no, the events need to happen because the characters are doing this. And
we figured it out in the end.
Yeah, it sounds like a good learning experience of of finding the middle ground between those two things.
And you realize your own process in going through that, because you're actually kind of coming up against something that's noticeably different from what you're used to.
I had a profound question I wanted to ask, but I'm afraid my brain has got rid of it.
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
I have a question. Can you think of recent stories, movies, books, TV, whatever, where you felt like the characters were incredible and all the world building as well? So the thing that actually came to mind while we were when Dan mentioned the topic before was Arcane.
Oh, okay. Very nice. I've heard good things about that.
Oh, the characters are so good. And I switched Netflix back on because I'm hanging out for season 2 in November.
I get that. When you just, I've done that before. Well, they dangle a carrot, and I'm like, I hate you. Sign up for just that one thing, and then watch it, and then turn off. My friend literally, she does this once a year. So she lives in remote Georgia. I mean, literally middle of nowhere. So what she does, like once a year, is she'll turn her Disney Plus back on, catch up on all of her MCU content, and then turn it back off. Cracks me up. Cracks me up that she does that. I love it to death. But hey, it works. I mean, if all you do is you just binge it straight through and then just turn your account back off. But to answer the question,
I was just going to say, I remember watching that and thinking, this is the perfect combination of amazing characters, incredible plot, and kind of bonkers, incredible world building as well. Like you don't see that very often.
So I'll do two. I'll do one that's a franchise, and then I'll try and think of something else. So the first is, for me, the most recent thing I think I really enjoyed was Echo, which is one of the MCU miniseries that featured Maya Lopez and Alachua Cox, I want to say, is the main character. Excellent marriage of really good plot, really good character. I loved the heck out of it. I cried. It got to me, and I am very weak to family stories, and that one was completely about family, and so I was just, it's horrible, crying my eyes out at the end, but in a good way. I think I would go with Argyle so far for, because technically speaking, the other thing that I really like this year doesn't really count because it was Godzilla and Kong. That
not really character story.
Really, I mean, are they characters? Technically, yes, but it's not one of those things that you go to for character. You go to watch a radioactive dinosaur the size of a skyscraper punch a giant monkey in the face. That's what you go for. So I don't.
That's why I get out of bed in the morning, frankly.
I know I was going to say, but I did actually really love the shit out of that movie. I think I saw it twice in theaters, and I wanted to see it 3-4 times because it's my jam. I really love it. But in terms of like character, no, I think that I really liked Argyle. I did. I thought that it was very off kilter, and it definitely shouldn't have been released in theaters. I think it should have been a streaming movie. Of course, it didn't make any money. It's like hyper specific. So Argyle is, if people hadn't seen the trailer, is essentially this is author, and she writes mystery action books, and she gets to the very end of her series, and she, for whatever reason, hits a writer's block and doesn't know why, because every other time she's written a book, she had no trouble. And she's on this train about to go and just put herself on her little lake house and just like have a writer's retreat that weekend to try and figure out how she can finish the book. And this random dude shows up and is like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to try to kill you. I'm going to protect you. She's like, what the hell are you talking about? And then they just get up and start fighting in front of her. And she's like, what the hell? And so all of it is really just this one long kind of mystery of figuring out why the bad guys are after her, and who this guy is that is trying to protect her. She's never met him before. She doesn't know what's going on. And so really that's all. It's just that. It's just uncovering the plot alongside her and figuring out why she's in danger and what she did that, made these people be after her. And but it was really fun and colorful and silly, very, very irreverent. But that's what I mean about, like, it should have just been a streaming only movie, because again, this is some shit that I like. Like 5 people on earth like something quite that specific, like of one, she's a writer, so immediately I bonded with her over just, again, writer's block, all the other dumb shit that we do in the process. It's really frustrating. And she likes cats, and she has a little kitty cat that's traveling with her. So that was another thing I really adored, because I love cats. But yeah, it was just I like stories in which, even if it's not it doesn't always work. It was pretty convoluted and it was a little too long. But I like stories where it's a very distinct voice and a very distinct character. It doesn't feel like it's been recycled. He and I were talking about James Cameron's Avatar and how much every time I hate it because it always makes $1 billion. But what I do love about it is that it doesn't matter, because as soon as those movies go away, no one talks about them.
Mm-hmm.
No one talks about them at all. They come, they make money, they disappear. They have no cultural impact whatsoever. And so that's what I mean about, like, I love seeing somebody's vision, where it is obvious that I sat down and I thought about character and I thought about plot. I made each thing very distinct, and I gave it a voice that kind of only I can do. I wasn't lazy, and I didn't just steal it from something else that's better well known. That's kind of like how I think that how I like things to be.
How about you, Dan?
Surprised Kirka didn't say it. I think a fantastic character and setting attempt was the Spider-Verse films.
Yes.
Because even the haters, because let's face it, the internet, we live in the age of haters, of YouTube personalities who live to talk about how how woke things are, but the Spider-Verse films just get everything, to the microsecond perfect, and the bit characters have got so much personality. I mean, Spider-Man from Mumbattan, Jesus Christ, just
He was so delightful.
yeah. He was on screen for 5 minutes max, and yeah, just love the guy. The setting in a world where we've got, one might argue, too many stories about a multiverse of some kind. Spider-Verse did it first, so it has that. But B, it feels coherent. They give us enough specificity to make it feel like a world, and then let us just go and follow the characters. So I think that would be the one I would pick up of late, because it's just an amazing film, and I've just realized I need to go and watch it again, because
always, there's no reason not to go back and watch it. And to the degree that it's now September, I'm like, if you guys don't give me at least one nugget of what 3 is gonna be, I'm gonna lose it. If we get all the way to December and there's nothing, like a teaser or something, I'm gonna go mad. I'm just gonna go mad. I can't. The weight is killing me for seeing something.
I thought it was supposed to come out in December, wasn't it?
So probably when they first announced it, that might have been the deadline. But yeah, no, it got moved. It definitely got moved.
Sorry.
How about books? Because we've all talked about.
Oh, I was gonna say I can't answer this because I write all the time and have no time to read. It is pathetic how I
even if it's not recent, like just an example that you can think of that you're like, yeah, that is a really good. I mean, we've already given a couple of examples. So
I was gonna say I'd go back to Redwall just because I don't want to say Dresden Files, because I want Jim Butcher to fall down an elevator shaft. So I would say Redwall. Redwall, to me, the ones I read the most as a kid was Muriel of Redwall.
Oh God, yeah.
I read Marl Fox a lot. That was a good one.
The fact that a mouse ran around and her weapon was
a knotted rope that they tried to hang her with. I was like, that is the most gangster shit ever. Yeah. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this thing you tried to kill me with, and I'm gonna use it as a whip and beat the shit out of everybody.
She dipped it in water just to make it heavier, and then just
beat the shit out of all of her fucking oppressors. I was so proud of that girl.
And she was the rabbit war cry, Eulalia. I just love that word.
That was a good one. Long Patrol was my brother's favorite was Long Patrol when I was a kid. He loved that one. But yeah, I was gonna Mariel was one, just the one that is called Martin the Warrior was really good. I like the one that's just called Redwall. I read Mossflower a whole bunch. Mm-hmm. I read. Which one is the no? I think that is the one with Matthias is Marl Fox. I want to say. I'm trying to remember. The Matthias. Matthias is kind of like
Matthias was the original character in the first Redwall book.
There you go. Okay, that's what I was trying to remember. And but yeah, no, those to me were perfect, because no matter who they focused on, they always really, really built up the characters, the supporting characters, and the antagonists. Actually, my brother cracked me up one day when he got older, and he was like, I didn't realize that, like, so in that series, typically any of the field mice or any of the non-predator animals are usually good, and then the predators are usually really mean. And bad. They're not always, but most of the time they are. And so my brother cracked me up because one time when we were like adults, he was like, I didn't realize that like stoats and weasels and shit, they're adorable, because they'll have like little illumination. I'm sorry, he has illustrations in the chapter titles. And so you'll see some of the bad guys that he comes up with, and they're terrifying. They're like covered in scars and they have these mean, gnarly faces. And then he was like, but regular stoats and weasels are like fucking cute as shit. And he cracked me up. And he was like, my life is a lie. I thought they were like these hideous little mean things my whole life. But like, yeah, the rabbits are usually good. Not all of them, but most of the rabbits are good. Like the badgers and those sort of things are always like the good mammals. And then like birds, they go either way. Some of the birds were really nice. Some of them were really shitty. And reptiles almost unanimously were dickheads almost every single time.
So yeah, what an amazing RPG which has great Redwall vibes is Mouse Guards. This
I've
is
heard
based
that one, yes.
on a comic series, and you just go around as ickle wickle mousy wousers with massive fuck off black axes and just chopping people's heads off. It's incredible. Book wise, I'm gonna put forward the Kyoshi novels from based off obviously Avatar: The Last Airbender.
There are many things on my to read list
Because I wasn't sure about it because tie-in novels.
Yeah, quality is all over the place. Some of them are like that. That's it. I have it on my shelf. As a matter of fact, I found a novelization of Constantine, like the Keanu Reeves one.
Oh yeah,
That was like mind-blowingly amazing. And then I think shortly after that, I was in another bookstore and I saw a novelization of Batman Forever, which not a good movie, but I love it. There's a difference between the two things. It's not good, but I love it. And so I went, oh, you know what? That Constantine one was really good. So I picked that one up and I'm flipping through it like, oh, okay. So tie-in things have different quality apparently. Because that one, I don't even think I finished it. I think I just flipped through about the first third and I was like, yeah, you're just recounting the movie. I actually want stuff that's not in the or go into more detail. Isn't that kind of the point of a novelization of a film? So
but with the Kyoshi one, I've only read the first one, but it feels very much like the Kyoshi from what we got glimpses of in the animated series. But we see her when she was younger and how she becomes that character, and the world feels authentic to the world of the show. And I suppose that could be, now I realize I'm talking about that's cheating because obviously it's a book based off a cartoon, but it's just it's excellent. It really it's top quality writing, so I can thoroughly recommend it. And
one I think that is funny because people not everybody knows this. So some people know the show Castle that had Nathan Fillion and Stana Katic on it. And
so Kyoko, don't whatever you do, don't get her started.
I won't. I'm not going down the Castle fangirl rabbit hole. What I'm going to talk about is the fact that they actually did make him real books and they're actually fucking good.
Really?
Yes, you would not think that. So they did. So there's obviously a ghostwriter. Now I'm sure if you research it very hard, you can go and find who actually is writing them. But no, literally, like well, I would stand up. I'm not gonna. But yes, they made his Nikki Heat books, and there's like a whole series of them. I think 3 or 4. And they use a ghostwriter, obviously, but they're actually good mysteries. Like they put little cute shout outs to the show inside of it, but they actually use all the characters that he describes in Castle the show in the book, and like they give them real plots and real murders, and you can follow the whole thing, and it's actually really good. I don't know what they're up to by now, and if they stopped after the show. The show ended in I'm gonna say in 20.
How about yourself, Jules?
Books. As you guys are talking, I'm just thinking most of the authors that I'm like, I will basically buy anything that they publish are actually in this category. Awesome characters and epic world building. So Brandon Sanderson, Marie Brennan, Sherwood Smith, and I really like probably one of the series that I remember the most. I should go back and read it. N.K. Jemisin's series that won the was it the Hugo or the Nebula 3, like for all 3 books?
Oh, what's it
3
called?
years in a row.
Dying Earth?
The fifth season, yeah. Broken Earth trilogy.
Broken Earth.
So good. So good. Yeah. And it's always that these characters are amazing and the world kind of blows your brain at the same time. Yeah. I'm always on the lookout for new authors. I guess it's partly a side effect of doing a PhD where you're investigating the linguistics of world building. You want to find as many examples as you can. Not that I have to read everything, but yeah. Although actually at the moment, I just decided I wanted to, it's been too long. I've started rereading The Lord of the Rings. It's so fun.
Oh no, I know
Right.
people who do it every year. Or I have a friend who rereads Harry Potter, the whole thing. I think a couple times a year, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it's good comfort food. I mean, we're not gonna talk about author, but no, the books. I was like, no, I know people who read them each year. It's part of their fall tradition.
Recent-ish, in inverted commas, recent trend, genre, whatever you want to call it, which is very good for both world building and characters, I found, is the cozy fantasy genre. Legends and Lattes is a great one. The characters are just adorable. The setting is, cozy. It's not too expansive. It's just their little world, and it's just a nice little sunny break from the depression of the day.
Well, one that I was thinking of is not a book or a Spy Family. Spy Family has been my jam. I am so happy I discovered it. It is so much fun. It's just adorable and cute, and it hits you and it gets your little family feels going too. But yeah, I think it's delightful. I can't wait. They've already announced season 3.
So Charlene likes a different variety of cozy from the
Spicy fantasy is where it's at. It's good shit. I know all about the spice,
especially when it involves a certain one-armed
super soldier.
Super soldier, yeah. Yeah, any more thoughts on that as a topic? Because the thing about this is we could go on and on forever. Do we have a particular favorite in mind in terms of character or world building?
Mine's always Batman, but
of course. Sorry, why did I ask? Of course, Batman. Yeah. Jules,
I don't know if I can pick one. I'm sorry.
Lightweight.
It is hard.
These are on my wall because they've kind of been instrumental in shaping the type of fantasy that I want to write.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the only ones. They're just the ones that I came across when I was browsing Etsy for fantasy-inspired artwork. Is dangerous.
Oh yes. You will find some pretty stuff and put yourself in a financial bind immediately.
Although thankfully, the digital files were actually not expensive at all. I'm like, oh, that's so affordable. But yeah, no, I can't actually think off the top of my head.
Whereas I love, I've been rekindling my love of Arthuriana. That just so it's not necessarily a setting per se, but it conjures up, I don't know, a sense of time and place, even if what I imagine it is different to what other people imagine. Obviously, the reason I'm thinking about it is because me and my friend group are playing a game of Pendragon, which is a role-playing game where you play knights in the time of Arthur. And yeah, I just love that set. All of the romance stories, Tristan and Isolde, Lady of Shalott, just there's an ethereal quality to that setting where anything could happen. It's
surely there's a short story in there somewhere for you, Dan.
I've written several.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've written several. Cool. What time is it? Well, we are coming to the top of the hour. Look at that. Almost as if we timed it. Yeah, hello Bernie. Thanks a lot for joining us. We are just coming towards the end, so we've been, by all means, go back and watch. We've been talking about character-based fiction, not and as opposed to event/setting based. So it's been, yeah, I like these theoretical conversations. It does my brain some good because it needs some stimulation every now and again. So Kyoko, Jules, anything you want to tell us about upcoming projects, where we can find you, social media, that kind of stuff? Go on, Kyoko. You are easily the busiest of us, so in terms of this side of life, so tell us where we can buy all of your stuff.
Sure. So my website is shewhowritesmonsters.com.
Which is just the best website.
Just
yeah.
The first book in both of my series is permanently free to download on all platforms, so there's no startup charge if you want to give my books a try. So like I said earlier in the thing, I have a book for Falstaff that should be debuting this fall. There still isn't any information available yet, but it should be there pretty soon. So if you're following Falstaff and you follow John Hartness himself, you will be made aware when that is available. I've got 2 more anthologies for Milton Davis that'll be out this year. So Terminus 3, and then Space Funk, which we just got fully funded on Kickstarter. Thanks for anybody who contributed. And then the very last thing is next January, I am in Captain America: The Shield of Sam Wilson, which is a short story anthology by Marvel Comics and Titan Books. And so I think did we move to January? I think it's January. Yeah. So it should be January 19th, I think was the release date. So if you like Sam Wilson and you want to read some short stories about him, I will be in that.
And you've already been in Black Panther. So
yes, I was in Black Panther: Tales of Wakanda back in 2021. So if you ever want to look that one up, I am in that anthology as well.
Jules, how about yourself?
Not on social media, except for here. But do have a short story in a collection we posted a couple of weeks ago. From Dan and the shared world that Dan and I wrote in. So anybody who's interested in having a sneak peek of what that might look like. So the anthology is called Eclectica, and it's just available for free on Smashwords. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And as usual, you can find me on YouTube at the RPG Therapist. You can pick up your very own copy of Role-Playing Games Psychotherapy, A Practitioner's Guide on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherever you get your reading material. You can also pick up a copy of Handmaid's Tale Psychology, Spider-Man Psychology, Batman Psychology, Doctor Who Psychology, all the psychologies, edited by Travis Langley. And rather excitingly, I've got some cons coming up. I will be at MCM Comic Con in London, hopefully doing a panel about using RPGs in therapy. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but keep your fingers crossed. Something similar. I'll be in PAX Unplugged. I suspect there won't be a panel there, but I will be there. As will Charlene, as a matter of fact. And I think Kyoko, you, I, and Charlene at various dates will be at CassaCon on Discord in December. So if you're in London at the end of October, Philadelphia at the beginning of December, or on Discord, reach out, say hi, and we'll have some fun. Jesus, I'm busy. So, as usual, ladies, thank you very much indeed. That was I enjoyed, as I say, conversations like that. So please do come along again. We will do more. And yeah, until next time, thank you very much indeed, everybody, for coming along and watching. Enjoy your writing, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.